it's your boy Jay, and this is going to be the first in my in 5 years series. And I've seen, I don't know, a couple of YouTubers do it, but I haven't seen them do specific teams that many people would want to visualize how their clubs will be doing in 5 years. And so I thought I'd just start off with Chelsea. They are the team that I support, and probably be the easiest one for me to do because I know their squad and I know basically what players. Because obviously, you know, if you simulate 5 years times, of course the game's realistic and they're going to make some changes. Some players are going to leave, some players are going to stay, some players are going to retire. And so this is basically it. These players, so this is good there. This is Chelsea's current squad, and when it does decide to show up, okay, here. So this is Chelsea's current squad, and it is mainly transferred players that obviously were not at the club before. But if you do look at this squad, you can see there are 4 players who were here. So they are Eden Hazard, Ryan Bertrand, Azpilicuetta, and Thibuat Courtios. Now I'm just going to go for a quick look at all of those players. So we do have Thibuat Courtios, who is only 25 years old at the moment. And if you just look at those stats and you look at the Blues, it's just amazing, yeah. Because he is definitely one of the best goalkeepers, young goalkeepers in the world at the moment, and he has the potential to easily go on and become one of the best goalkeepers in the world. But we do go back to the squad, and next up we have Azpilicuetta, who is 28 now, so he is 23 at the moment. And the Blues that you just see are absolutely ridiculous. You know, if he put his best role, which is obviously a fullback, he does only come in with a 3 stars, but them stats for a fullback are just absolutely amazing. So most of these players that I'm going to be showing you are going to have absolutely ridiculous stats, because Chelsea, as you know, are a good team. You know, as much as you can hate them, or as much as you dislike them, you cannot just disagree that they are a good team and they have absolutely amazing players. So we do move on to Ryan Bertrand, who is 28 now, and he has made 25 appearances for England, whether he does that in real life or not. But here again, his lowest stat is flair, but you know, as a fullback, it's not really the best of things. And you can see that he can play on all the left-hand side, which he can actually do in real life. And there's not too much to be happy or sad about. You know, he is 28, so he would be on the would be on the decline, and wouldn't be at his best of form. And we do move on to the last current Chelsea player in this starting 11, which is Eden Hazard. And oh my days, do not get me started. Eden Hazard is just, as much as you can disagree or agree with me, you cannot agree that this guy is one of the best upcoming players in the world at the moment. You know, he's established himself in the Chelsea starting 11 already at the tender age of only 22 years old. You know, he came in his first season and he was absolutely amazing. I was so happy with him. You know, I thought maybe paying 32 million for a 20-year-old, it was a bit ridiculous at first, but he definitely showed that he was worth his money, and he's definitely, if you look at him now, shows that he was definitely worth his money. You know, if we go on his stats, you can just see, you know, 56 appearances he's made in this current season in this game world, and he's got 21 goals and 23 assists for club and country. You know, for Belgium, 10 games, 6 goals, 7 assists is just absolutely amazing. And that's the sort of form he does put in real life, and he definitely does deserve some of the recognition he does get. So there are a few Chelsea players that are still here. You know, David Luiz is still here, and he's 31, but the stats are amazing as well. You know, he is one of them players that can play in many positions, and you can just tell by them stats that he can. One of Chelsea's upcoming stars, you know, whether he does actually break into the first team or not is another question, is Isiah Brown. You know, he is 21 years old, so he would still, at this rate, still have a lot of potential. But one of the stick-out stats is the determination, which is 20, which is absolutely ridiculous. You know, if he put in his best role that he can play at the moment, you know, his pace 17, his finishing 13, and he still would be only 21 in 5 years' time. So he does have a long way to go. Just looking through the squad, as you can see, many of these players do not play for Chelsea. We do have Petr Cech here, who is 35 years old, and he probably by this time would have given up his #1 spot for the upcoming Thibuat Courtios. But out the players that did left, I did make sure I could get some sort of tabs on them, And we do go on to the first player, which is obviously could leave, and you could definitely understand why, is Oscar. Now, just looking at this, his value at this moment in time is 34 million. And at the age of 26, that's absolutely ridiculous. You know, if you're looking at these stats, he's just absolutely... For some reason, it does say his best role is right attacking mid, but he does play for... if you do watch Chelsea, you'll know that he does play in the centre where Juan Mata normally does play, and he has coincidentally bench Mata at this moment in time. And if you do look at those key stats, you know, almost all of them are 17 and above. You know, his acceleration is only 15, his dribbling is only 15, which some people will disagree with. But you know, this is just a simulation, so this is almost, I'd say, 95% accurate, because FM, their engine and the stuff they do to program this game is just absolutely amazing when it comes to accuracy. So the next player is Kevin De Bruyne, who hasn't had the best of starts to his Chelsea career, and he is in this game at Real Madrid, which I wouldn't disagree with him going to a team like Real Madrid. But at the moment, you know, they do have Isco, so it would seem very unlikely that Kevin De Bruyne would end up at Real Madrid in real life. But in this game, he has, and I wouldn't disagree. You know, if you look at these stats for an attacking mid, 19 creativity and 18 first touch, 18 passing, 18 technique, is just exactly what you would want in an attacking midfielder. And there's not much more to complain about. And just like Eden Hazard, it seems to be a Belgian thing that he is comfortable with both of his feet. Another player, Marco van Ginkel, is unlucky at this moment. You know, he was brought into Chelsea this season, but during a Capital One Cup game against Swindon, he was subbed off in the early moments, and it was found out that he was probably going to be ruled out for the rest of the season. You know, we'd be lucky to see him in the last couple of games, but it would be very unlikely that Chelsea would bring him back. You know, he may get a couple under 21 games at the end of the season, but it will be very unlikely that you'll see him in the first team in real life. But anyway, he is at Manchester United in this world, and if you just look at some of these stats, you know, it does say his best position is a right mid, but in real life it is a centre mid. But you know, over 5 years, you never know what could happen. He could actually end up being a winger, which would be good. But you know, if you do put in his current role, which is almost a, you know, a central midfielder, I'm not going to go for the detailed role, you know, ball win. I'm just going to go to central midfielder, so you would be supporting, and you can see some of the stats that you need in a centre mid. They are definitely there. You know, his tackling, I would say 7 is a bit of an unrealistic number. And, you know, you may find me biased, but I do think his tackling is a lot better. In pre-season, we did have a pre-season game against Real Madrid, and he would literally just boss the show from the midfield. You know, he was dropping players like Ronaldo, Benzema, Modric with ease, and he definitely does have potential. You know, if he does get a chance in the Chelsea first team, he may end up reaching some of the heights that he's expected to. Anyway, move on to the next player, which is Willian, and he is one of my favourite players. You know, he came into the Chelsea squad this season, and he already is up there with one of my favourite Chelsea players. And he is an attacking midfielder. He can play winger, so we're just going to go to attacking midfielder. And as you can see, some of them stats again, almost just like a bit like the Oscar and the Kevin De Bruyne, which shows how much our players that we do have in the Chelsea squad are so similar. But as again, you can see almost every stat here is 16, 17, 16, 17. His technique is 18, his work rate is 14, and his acceleration is 15. You can just see some of his other key stats. You know, he has 17 pace, 15 long shots, 11 free kicks, 11 finishing, 12 corners. He also is at Real Madrid, which shows that Real Madrid do seem to have a liking of Chelsea players. We do want to move to the next player, which is another player who was sorry about my phone. There was a bit unlucky with at the beginning of his Chelsea career. This was last season when we did a Roberto Di Matteo. Roberto Di Matteo had a lot of faith in Oriol Romeu, and he did start the first few games of the season. I think it was against Wigan, I'm not sure, where he also suffered an injury that put him out for the rest of the season. And he is currently on loan in a Liga BBVA club. I'm not too sure, but as you can see, as a central midfielder, he does have really, really nice overall stats for a player that's only 26 years old at this time. You wouldn't be, you know, disappointed to have a player like him. If you do put defensive midfielder, as you can see there, he has the stamina, he has the strength, he has the decisions, the teamwork, and all the key stats you want there. So we do have a couple more players, and I'm definitely going to go through them. As I said, I do support Chelsea, so this is probably going to be the longest one out of all of them, because I know quite a lot of Chelsea players that I thought I like to know myself and show. But anyway, move on to the next player, who is Victor Moses, who is another one of our attacking midfielders that is just destined to do well. He is currently at Liverpool in real life, and he is doing there, you know, he is really doing, strutting his stuff and showing why Jose Mourinho should give him a chance next season. But at the moment, he is at Liverpool and he is doing well. And as you can see, he is an attacking midfielder as well. So we're just going to switch it up, and you can see his key stats. They may not be as good as the Kevin De Bruyne's and the Oscars, but he is very, very decent. You know, his value is 3.4 million. He is 27 years old at this moment in time, and you can understand why. You know, his creativity is not the best, but his attacking and his wing play is definitely what makes him what the decent player he is. So the next player we move on to is one centre back who did actually make his Chelsea debut last season, is Andres Christensen, and boy, he if he does get a chance, you know, as I say, most of these players, they just really need chances, and to show why, I have seen this guy in real life quite a lot of time. I do go to under 21 games, and at the moment this time he's only 22, and he has some of the stats of a world class centre back. You know, his strength is there, his jumping is there, his tackling there is almost just above the 15 mark, everything here, apart from his heading, but you know, there's nothing to complain about there. At the age of 22, and he has moved on to Borussia Mönchengladbach. Another player, so the next player we move on to is Ramires, who in this save has actually gone back to Brazil. But if you just look at those mental stats, I'm not even going to filter to send, just look at those mental stats. Every single one is a blue. You'd almost blinded by it. And at the age of 31, it shows that Ramires will probably still have it. You know, may not be the biggest and bulkiest of guys, but the way he bosses the midfield for someone like his stature is absolutely amazing. So he is 31, and just looking at them stats, stamina on 19 is almost as accurate as ever, and he's definitely progressed well. If he progresses like this in real life, he will definitely go on to become a Chelsea legend. So the next player we move on to is Josh McCecheran, who did actually a couple of years back was actually in the Chelsea first team. You know, he was mainly on the bench, but he did make quite a few appearances for Chelsea over that season. I'm not too sure how many years back, but he is only 20 years old, so you know, he still has a lot of potential in real life. But at 25 years old, it's shown that he has progressed well. He is currently at Norwich, so he's still in England, and there's a lot of stats there that could show that he does have the potential to be a really good player. So I'm just gonna, for the last few players, I'm just going to briefly show you how. So Nathan Ake is another player that many people, even if you don't support Chelsea, you probably would have heard his name before. And he is currently at Watford in this. And as you can see, he is a centre-back. He can play left-back and he can play centre-mid. Which one of those positions he actually cements down in his Chelsea career, or wherever he does end up, it could be pivotal to how his development as a player. You know, as for me, I would love to see him play as a centre defensive mid role, because he isn't the tallest of players, and I've seen him play at left back as well for the Chelsea under 21s, and he does have the attacking attributes, you know, that you would want in a player like him. So we move on to the next player, which is Christian Atsu, who was just bought into Chelsea on transfer deadline day. So he hasn't actually done anything for Chelsea so far. He is at loan at Vitesse at the moment, and he hasn't, by judging by this, he hasn't really lived up to his name. You know, just looking at some of these stats, they aren't amazing, and at 26 years old, you'd expect someone like him to be doing absolutely amazing. But you know, he is at Stoke, so that could be a reason to why he hasn't progressed as a player. But anyway, so we move on to the next player, which is probably one of Chelsea's greatest upcoming stars. Was meant to scout him, but I never did do it. And he is definitely going to be a Chelsea legend. I can already see it. You know, he is at loan on Zulte Waregem, I think that's how you pronounce them. They are a Belgium club, and his older brother Eden, who's obviously at Chelsea, has said in the past that his brother is better than him, and if his brother is better than him, they're definitely going to play on the same team one day. It's a matter of it's just a matter of time. You know, would it be next season or the season after? But I can almost guarantee you the Hazard brothers will play on the same team. You know, they do have two other brothers. One of them is a bit younger, so we could be having an attacking trio of Hazard brothers if they are able to persuade their brother to join them all at Chelsea. And there is an even younger one, but he's got a long way to go before he ever steps on the football field, if he ever does. So whoopsie daisy there. And so we do have just a couple more players. Marco Marin, who is one of my favourite players when he did come in, and he as well suffered an injury in his first season, which just he fell out of place in the Chelsea squad, and was then at the moment loaned out to another league, BVS. I really should have checked this out before I started this video. But he has got some really good stats. You know, his dribbling and first touch, which he was known for when he did come to Chelsea, have all stayed. You know, he is on the decline. He's 29 years old and he is at Olympiacos, which is shown by some of his stats are not the greatest. We do have Gael Kakuta here, who is another player who almost did establish himself in the Chelsea squad, but then was loaned out to, I think it was the season when he was loaned out to Bolton, and he is also one of the Chelsea players who could go on to become a legend if he is just given a chance. He is on loan at Betis at the moment, and whether he does actually break into the Chelsea first team or is given away somewhere else will be another question. We do have the man himself, Fernando Torres. He is 34 years old, so I can almost guarantee you at this point in his career, he probably will not be at Chelsea, or he'll probably be considering retirement. But anyway, guys, this has been your boy Jay. This has been episode 1 in 5 years' time, so I will be bringing another one soon. I'm not sure what team I'll do next. You know, if you could do comment or request a team or a certain player, and then I'll do whatever team he does play for in real life. Anyway, I will be bringing more of these, and just please like, comment, rate, subscribe, and also follow me on Twitter at jrim_17 for more updates. Peace.